Hello everyone, I'm Mark Tuxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands. Brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business.
Kind of really played up within the within the edit of Dragon's Den, and thinking back to it now, it was probably a pretty bad idea to go to the Dragons and say, no, I don't want to make any more money.
The Secret Garden Glamping's very own Derry Green joins People Behind Brands podcast for a heartwarming, emotional episode on how he grew his business born out of COVID-19 for the sole purpose of keeping his children entertained in unprecedented times. What started as a camping trip in the garden turned into a multi-award winning 5-star brand which made it onto a recent episode of Dragon's Den where Derry pitched his business to the Dragons looking for further investment. Derry opens up about his experience on the show and what happened once he accepted Deborah Meaden's offer of 5% into the business. Derry is the Peter Pan of business who is fulfilling his 12-year-old self's dream of building dens in the back garden. But throughout the episode, Derry opens up about learning from his dad, who gave him his work ethic and their unique bond before his death 11 years ago. Let's find out why Derry is such a likeable character and how his incredible journey unfolded.
Mr. Derry Green, welcome to People Behind Brands podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Yeah, good, thank you. Really good to have you on. Where is it you're joining us from today?
So I'm just at the site. So just in Skelmersdale, we've just been moving 15 ton of red granite. So that's been my fun morning. We have to do it between changeovers, so it's all done. We've got to do sections at a time for the car park. So yeah, it's been an energetic morning, but yeah, we're getting there.
Good. So Derry is the owner and founder of the Secret Garden Glamping. Derry's venture is a multi-award-winning 5-star luxury glamping site based in a beautiful 4-acre woodland. Having originally started out in the first COVID-19 lockdown in 2020, purely to keep his young children entertained throughout testing times, the weeks turned into months, and Derry began to build upon his thoughts and turn his obsession into a successful glamping site, whilst documenting the entire process that ended up going viral on social media. Thanks to early inquiries and an appetite for the site to become a short holiday attraction, Derry listed the Secret Garden Glamping on booking sites, and within the first 3 days of listing, he received bookings for 2 years in advance. Derry quickly realised there was a gap in the market for this and has since built the company with a further 9 units and many more on the horizon. Derry has since appeared on the latest series of the BBC hit show Dragon's Den, where he pitched his business proposition to the Dragons seeking investment. Of course, throughout the episode, we will touch upon Derry's life lessons and explore personal challenges along the way. So Derry, I guess you've been on quite a roller coaster ride since the first lockdown and building the successes of your companies as we know it today. So I mentioned previously that this is born out of keeping your children entertained, but take us back to the beginning and how this venture really took shape.
Yeah, so that was in the first lockdown, so March of 2020. Previous to this, I had a transport company, and I came back. I used to spend a week in Spain and a week here. And I came back, it was around the 10th of March, fully expecting to go back a week later, and we went into lockdown. So I was stuck at home, 2 young children, and to be honest, this kind of all started, it was as much to keep my mind occupied from what was going on in the world as it was theirs, because that first COVID lockdown, it was really hard. I lost all the business that we'd done before, and that all came crashing down, and stuck at home with them. So it started as a camping trip in the garden, just trying to keep them entertained. We set up a tent on the lawn and camped that first night, but waking up on the wet grass in the morning wasn't very exciting for him. So I thought, right, we can do more. So I built a little deck to camp on for the next night. And then, if you remember that first COVID lockdown, it was like that beautiful summer every single day. Yeah. So as days turned into weeks and then into months, I just kept doing a bit more with them each day. And we, at one point I'd moved basically my whole living room into the garden, and we just expanded from there. And it was just to keep us entertained. And by the end of the first lockdown, I created a whole outdoor area, and and a place for me and the kids to spend our time. We knew we wasn't going to be going on holiday anywhere because that was out of the question. So it's like, right, okay, what can we do spending time at home? And that's where it was all born from. And from there, it's gone to where we are now.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey. I mean, having watched the episode of Dragon's Den where you mentioned you didn't have any real experience in the building trade,
No.
To build things such as decking, as you mentioned just a minute ago. So how have you managed to build everything you see today, especially in that first unit?
So honestly, it's trial and error. So it started on a small scale. Again, the first one, what I created in that first lockdown to what I'm creating now are almost like night and day. They're not the same thing. Over the past 4 years, I've learned so much. And it's the first bit was all down to things like YouTube. YouTube videos are great. You can find anything on there. And then also friends and family. It's amazing. I can't remember what the saying is, but you're only like a couple of steps away from somebody. So it's like a phone call to a friend will lead me to somebody else who knows how to do plumbing, for example, or groundwork or hot tubs or whatever it is. There was always somebody there who could help us. And I found, again, within that COVID, everybody did want to help each other and everybody was in the same boat. So it was really good to get that kind of experience behind me from what we did going from there to where we are now. And obviously taking on key members of staff as we go forward to increase what we can do. But it's also ultimately just experimenting with things I like doing. Yeah.
So it sounds like you were pretty much kind of learning on the job then, really. So do you think any of your sort of past experiences or careers influence, the kind of decision to try something completely different?
Yeah, so I've done lots of different things in the past. I've run bars and nightclubs. I used to work for my dad building Christmas grottos. I used to own a chain of takeaways at one point. I've done transport. Ultimately, I've never really found what exactly it was that I really enjoyed doing, although it was all business based. So what really gets me going is kind of branding, marketing, design, all those sorts of aspects. So it flows into it, although this is just another level now on what we're doing. When I get to build tree houses and things like that, it's different from what I was doing before, but it's all this, the same sort of skill base.
Yes, I mean, take us back to appearing on Dragon's Den and obviously the process involved with that, because so many people have watched it. But what made you apply for the show and pitch for further investment, despite really already taking it to great heights on your own?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Again, when I came to Dragon's Den, everybody tried to talk me out of it because we didn't need it. Previous to Dragon's Den, we were already the most viewed, most followed, most booked glamping site in the UK, and it was doing really well. But I always like testing myself. What I find is that the more I test myself, the more that comes out and the better we can do. So Dragon's Den was basically the ultimate test. Is my business worthy of doing more? And it wasn't so much for the investment, because that's not what I was looking for. What I was looking for is I've taken a business from a concept to, where we're at now. So we're turning over, a few million a year. But going from that to turning over tens of millions and scaling that business to a national scale isn't something I've done before. And I know is a whole different skill set to what I have. So that's actually what I was looking for, to see, one, if the way I thought and the way I did things resonated with them, and then ultimately where we could take this going forward.
So what, in terms of the Dragon's Den, appearing on the episode, right from applying to appearing on that episode, getting it filmed and everything after, what's involved in that? How did you sort of experience that for yourself? Yeah,
it's a huge process. So we did the actual filming back in May last year before it was on, in January this year. But then previous to that, it's about 6 months of going through all sorts of hurdles. I mean, the main thing is all the due diligence. That took about 3 months to go through. So that's BBC going through every part of your business, the ins and outs of everything. So it's basically a full audit of your own business. I found it a really good process, because it got me to delve really into the figures, what we were doing on a daily basis, how we could expand the business. So that was, a really eye-opening process for me. But then also through the different producers and editors, and also the welfare side of things. So going through psychological assessments and stuff. Are you capable of dealing with the publicity that comes from it? Because it can be good and it can be bad, and making sure that fits with what you're doing. So it was a big process. And in all fairness, I never actually thought that we'd get there to actually be on the show, because thousands and thousands of businesses go on there, and that's whittled down to, I think there's about 50 in each series.
Right.
So it's not a lot from, thousands and thousands of kind of applications and things like that. So getting to the point of actually being in the studio was a huge part of it. And that was rehearsing I remember all day, every day. I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just wander about. I look like an insane person, just mumbling to myself, walking up and down the driveway, trying to get all this all this information into my head to not do what everybody sees happen on TV over and over again, where you forget stuff. Because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do it, I gave myself the best chance of doing it. Because this could be the best piece of marketing I've ever done, or the worst piece of marketing I've ever done, and that was the real risk there. But I like to put stuff on the line and see where we end up, and ultimately it ended up being good. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was incredibly calm and composed throughout, which is obviously quite a nerve-wracking experience standing in front of those types of people. Obviously, lots of business kind of acumen, really. So yeah, it's a credit to you. But Deborah asked you in the program about how much you charge in terms of your fees. So hinting at the fact that she didn't feel it was quite enough. But you made an interesting point during that show that your booking rate stays flat across the year, especially in school holiday time, where similar businesses might hike it up. But tell us more about your thinking around this and your value around that.
Yeah, well, you see, that was kind of really played up within the within the edit of Dragon's Den, and thinking back to it now, it was probably a pretty bad idea to go to the Dragons and say, no, I don't want to make any more money. It was probably not the best idea, but ultimately, the general public really got behind it, because it is. I started this business for me and my children, and because we were stuck at home and couldn't go on holiday. So the one thing I didn't want to do is go back on my morals. It really is always grated on me that people with kids have no other choice. Well, it's either A, you take them out and they get fined, or B, you take them in school holidays and get charged 2, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever it might, whatever you should be charged. And they do it because you've got no other choice. And I don't think business works well like that. I think if people are coming to you because they have no other choice, that's not the model I want to do going forward. And I think, again, as our model's expanded, what we find is in the summer holidays, it's all families with children. And those families and children who come in the summer holidays because they can afford to, because we're not ripping them off. Then maybe mum comes back with her friends in December and fills up the winter times. So it's not just from my own point of view of I'm not doing it because I don't like it. It's also from a business decision. It then makes our year-round bookings sustainable and ultimately more profitable going forward, rather than this famine and feast mentality that a lot of kind of hospitality businesses have.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good idea. So we see on the show that you accepted Deborah Meaden's offer, despite pretty much all of the Dragons offering and showcasing their interest. But what made you go with Deborah as your partner at 5% at that time?
So, do you know what? It was really hard. And watching back Dragon's Den, because when you're in the den, although it's only 5 or 10 minutes on TV, you're actually in front of the Dragons for about 2 hours, and they go through every single part of the business. And looking back at it, I forgot how amazing Peter was at the very start. He was going to make me an offer within the first 30 seconds, and by the time 2 hours down the line, he kind of got a bit quiet on it. But Deborah, when it was that kind of last bit when I was talking to Deborah, and everything that she was saying is exactly what I think in my own head to myself. To me, it's so clear the path of what it needs, what glamping needs to be, what UK accommodation needs to be, what people are looking for. And Deborah said every one of them points. And it was like, right, if you're thinking the same as me, then we have to do this together. Because it was, again, and I've seen businesses go in there and the Dragons have taken them in different directions, which may work for that business, but I have a very clear and defined direction for this business, and knowing that Deborah's on the same side as that is perfect. So it was a match made in heaven then.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the big question would be is, after the cameras stop rolling, how have Deborah and obviously Dragon's Den as a whole impacted the business, and what's the plans moving forward for the business?
Yeah, so we're still riding the wave at the minute. It's been 9-10 weeks since the episode was aired, and it's not calmed down. It's just been phenomenal. I mean, January has been obviously by far the busiest month we've ever had. We've done over £500,000 worth of bookings in January alone, with Deborah, and then as well the support from all the Dragons, because even though ultimately I had to choose one of them, all of the Dragons were really supportive. Sarah's been amazing. They've all been on board with what I was trying to do here. So now it's about opening multiple locations across the country and across the world. Since Dragon's Den, our audience from a customer point of view has grown, obviously, but from a business point of view, we've had thousands and thousands of inquiries from so many different businesses and different industries to do more going forward. So we've got lots in the pipeline now, multiple sites to open this year and next year, and take the brand national now.
Yeah, it sounds genuinely exciting. I mean, this is a unique way of spending time with family or a large group of friends. But why do you think the Secret Garden Glamping is so unique and bookings are so far in advance?
Yeah, so when I came to glamping, again, because I've not been in the industry, I think what happens is if you tend to stay in an industry for a long period of time, you get stuck with the old ways of working. COVID kind of proved it. Things can change literally overnight, and the direction and what customers want and what customers are looking for can change really quickly. So we can pivot really well. But when I came to glamping, my first kind of state the obvious thing was glamping is camping. When I used to go camping as a kid, I distinctly remember when my mum and my dad would set the tent up and we'd walk away and we'd go and climb a tree or go for a walk or whatever it was we did. Now, when it came to glamping, everybody focused on, in theory, what was the tent and expected to set a tent up and then people to sit in it for 2 days, which was never what happened when you went camping. So why, when it came to glamorous camping, would people think that that's what people wanted to do? So I quickly realized what we are as an industry. We're an experience provider that also has accommodation. We're not an accommodation provider.
Yeah.
So I focused everything around the experience, about the outdoor areas, about reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with friends and family. And the accommodation was just a kind of sideline. It was a reason why they could stay there and carry on the evening. So that's what my first clear point was. So going down that direction, and rather than focusing on the bed or the unit in this case, it was focusing on the experience, and that's what differentiates us from everybody else in the market. Although people are now 4 years down the line coming round to my way of thinking and realizing there's a huge market. The experiential market is massive, and there's lots of surveys out there. People are more willing to spend money on experiences than they are on products. So if you just wanted to go and stay in a Premier Lodge, you're not doing it because you want to stay in a Premier Lodge. You go and stay in a Premier Lodge because you go into your friend's wedding, or you're going to see your mum and dad, or whatever it is. It's always the experience, not the accommodation. So that's what I focus on within this business.
Yeah, I must say, I think you seem very self-assured in your quest, but also your decision-making process, as we've seen on Dragon's Den. Yeah. But where do you think that mentality or mindset actually really comes from?
Oh, ultimately, it comes from my dad.
Yeah.
This is it. He dragged himself up from his bootstrings and everything. He started his business, him and my uncle Will, with £5 back in like early 50s, and they had no formal training, no business training or whatever. They dug up my grandma's back garden to get clay to make a gnome. So my dad, any Christmas grotto you've ever seen in the UK, that was my dad. He started it. So in shopping centres, department stores, all that sort of stuff, that's what he did, and everything came from his mind. And from being little, me and my brother both followed him around at work and seeing how he did things, and it was always, everything was his decision. It was always kind of I wouldn't say knee-jerk reaction, but it was whatever he was feeling at the time was how the business went. And I've worked out that actually, however I feel about stuff, and whatever direction I want to kind of take, it seems to work out really well then. And it is from trial and error, because don't get me wrong, everything isn't perfect at the start. And I think people do focus on trying to make everything perfect straight away, and it's never going to be. We've learned so many lessons over the past 4 years. And like I said at the start, the unit that we built then to what we're building now are like night and day. They're not the same thing, because we've gone through this process and it's ever evolving. At no point do we think, right, that's it. That's the best you can do. Let's leave it there. It does need that constant evolution, and that's what keeps me going every day, because I'm trying to figure out the next thing. How can we do that better? How can we make that experience, even more valuable to a customer?
Yeah. So just going back to your first point there, with obviously that relationship with your dad.
Yeah.
I'm guessing what you've learned from your old man, you're sort of giving it back to your children.
Yeah.
With this business.
Yeah, exactly. So it was trying to get them involved as much as they could be, and seeing what it takes to do something. Because that's, although it was slightly different for me, because I never seen that with my dad. I didn't have to see the 15, 16, 18-hour days that he had to do at the start. When me and my brother were little, it was, at this point, it was a really good business. But then that brings different challenges. But showing my son and my daughter that stuff can be done from nothing, because it was literally from nothing. It doesn't, again, people expect these days you either have to win the lottery or be an influencer or have, £1 million to start a business. You don't. Anything can be done. It's just having the will to do it and the determination to do it.
Yeah, completely agree. Our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted, good or bad, on our personal and working lives. So away from business, can you tell us about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be honest, kind of twofold. Within business, I've had some really, really good times and really, really bad times. We used to have a transport business with over 100 drivers. We had 4 different depots. We were one of the main suppliers for CityLink back in 2013, if you remember CityLink.
Yeah.
We were one of the main suppliers there, and we had an amazing business, and it was going really, really well. And on Christmas Day 2013, CityLink went bust on us, owing us over £500,000. Wow. And there was a big inquest in Parliament to it. They knew they were going bust in October and made us run all the way up till Christmas Eve, and I was away in Cornwall at the time. And the way I found out was on the news, CityLink's collapse.
Really? Wow.
That's how I found out. And I had to come back on Christmas Day, back up, and left my kids down in Cornwall to find out what was going on. And we lost that whole business, all because somebody else had gone bust on us. Our business model was great. Everything worked. We was doing really well. And we lost that whole business and almost everything, all because of somebody else. So we were very lucky in that scenario, I guess, when I look back at it now, because other service partners lost everything. They lost the houses, the cars, the marriages, everything. And we managed to close everything down and end up back at zero where we'd started 8 years before with, at the time, me and my business partner and just one van. And we had to start again. But I think that starting again made me want it more. I realised that yes, everything's been taken away. And the one thing I learned from that is that I was never going to leave it in somebody else's hands again. Ultimately, that business was a brilliant business, but because of the person we were supplying, it brought the whole house of cards down. Where with this business, ultimately everything's on me. And I learned, I've learned that and I'm fine with that. I always say the same thing. One day I'll either live in a big mansion or in a cardboard box under a motorway bridge. And I'm fine with either one of those, as long as I've tried and as long as it's me that's done it.
Yeah.
If either of those scenarios happened, either because of luck or because of somebody else's fault, neither of those would make me happy either way. It's all about the trying and making sure that I do the best I can. And as long as I have, that's all I can really want. But that was a big moment within my life where I thought everything was over, but we managed to build it back from there.
Yeah. So what would you say? Like, just listening to you there, I mean, I guess it's kind of like focusing on what your purpose is in life. What would you say is your real purpose, whether it's from a business point of view? Obviously, you want your kids to learn from you as well. So what would you say is your overall purpose?
So when I look back to what my dad did, and my dad used to work all the hours of the day, and he used to do it, all sorts of different things, but ultimately he was doing it for me and my brother. And that's what when I look back now, I realize it's stupid little things. At the time, maybe I didn't think about it. Actually, yeah, 1 second. Just give me 2 seconds. Yeah. My dad was awesome. And when I look back at it now, he was doing everything he could to give me and my brother a grounding of what we could do going forward. And that's what I want to do now with both of my children. We've got a new one on the way now. We're due in a little over 6 weeks now, so not long away. But I've realised it's not about. I used to think. I tried to copy my dad in a way of I had to be here, there, and everywhere, trying to do as much as I can to make as much money as I can, because that's what's going to set up my son and my daughter and everybody else. But COVID and this kind of process really made me realise that's not what it was about, and that's not what he was doing. Ultimately, what he was doing is making sure that we could do whatever we wanted to. So I'm trying to build this business for Sophia and Noah to take over, but ultimately they might not want to. Sophia might want to I don't know, do something in sciences or do something in tech. All I can do is trying to give them the best start in life and the best grounding for whatever direction they want to go in. And it took me a long time to realize that, and COVID kind of came in from it. It's not about trying to be everywhere and do everything. It's just it's trying to set those initial kind of guidelines and how stuff works and the best to be the best person you can be. And it's always a balancing act, especially with work. If you work too much, you're never with them, and if you don't work at all, you can't provide. It's always that balancing act. And this business allows me to do both. And I fundamentally, remember that every day that after this, I'm going to go and pick up the kids from school, and that's what I want to do. And I want to drop them off in the morning, and I want to watch my son play football on Sunday. And those things are as important as the business, but then it's always a balancing act.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with having the right life-work balance, and knowing what's most important to you, really, and that's why you do it. It's why you've got business, to look after your family and all that sort of stuff. So I completely get that. I mean, one question as well is that I think you've mentioned a lot about your dad, obviously, in this episode, and how much of an impact he's had on you since you've grown up. Even to the man you are today. So, what's your kind of relationship like with him now?
So my father passed away 11 years ago now.
Wow.
Sorry, so yeah, that was the spurring moment that started me in business. Yeah. So when my dad passed away 11 years ago, before that I'd just kind of potted around. I'd done different jobs. I'd worked in bars and nightclubs. I'd done some delivery work. I'd always just kind of potted around because my dad was always there. I always knew he was there. If anything happened, I could go to it and he'd sort it, and that was it. So I always kind of bounced along. And when he died, that was like the moment that changed everything for me. And I realised that cushion was no longer there. That reliance that I had. Not that anything did go wrong, but if anything did, I knew I could pick up the phone and my dad had sorted it, and that was it. But that was gone. And it was literally, my dad died in the August, and I took a month off, whilst there was the funeral and sorting out the probate. And I never went back to my job. I thought, I can't do this now. So that's when I set up on my own. I bought my first transit van for £600 out of somebody's field and started doing the delivery job that I did before, but for myself. And then I grew it from there. Because I realised that I didn't have that backstop anymore, and I needed to take over. I was then the stopping point. So it was all down to me, and I had to go from there. And that journey over the past 11 years has always been to kind of follow in his footsteps and take over his role as like the head of the family sort of thing, and make sure that everybody's okay. So that was the real kind of key point there.
Yeah. So talking a little bit more about kind of sort of family elements to it as well. So working on your own ventures involves a lot of hours and drive, right? But how much of an impact does it have on your personal life? Obviously when you think about the family you've got right now, but also kind of like looking into the future too. Yeah,
so it depends whose perspective you look at it from. So from my perspective, and I know it sounds a bit like hairy-fairy, I guess. I genuinely don't work a day of my life now. This is my hobby. I always say again the same thing. It's like my 12-year-old self has designed the perfect job for me. At 12 years old, if you asked me what do you want to do, I guarantee I would have said I want to build dens all day in the woods, and that's what I've done. I've built my 12-year-old self's perfect job.
Yeah.
So it is my hobby. So when I look at it, although I might be doing 12 or 14 or 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm not. I'm realistically just playing about in the woodlands with the kids or with my mates. It's not a job. Now, from the outside looking in, because I do have people, I have friends of mine who aren't in the industry, and say, "Oh, you need to not work this weekend. You need to, because on a Sunday, I go down the woods, I put a podcast on, and I'll tinker around all day on a Sunday. It's ace." And they say, "You're working all the time. You're working all the time." I'm like, "Well, I'm not. It's just like so." If they're into, let's say, golf, and they go and play golf on a Sunday, this is just like me playing golf on a Sunday. So it's not work, although they would see it as work because it's not their job. So from my point of view, I don't work. But being able to work from home and build the team that we've got now really frees me up to do anything I want. So in the morning, I can be like I have done today. I can be moving 15 ton of granite.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, I can be chatting to somebody like yourself, and then in an hour's time, I'll go and pick the kids up. It's a business that I can do as much or as little as I need to, and then I'm always there in the background. But as we scale up now, this is where we need to take on, key members of staff going forward and expand the business a lot. But it's always a challenge, although it's a fun one to have. It could be a lot worse.
I think that's what you're liking there. I think you like the fun side of it, as you say, like the 12-year-old self of you.
Yeah.
But I think you like the challenge. That's what's kind of driving you further, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. If I had to do the same thing over and over again, I'd get bored to death.
Yeah.
So this is why, again, we're building the 13th unit now. None of them are the same. It is your progress of learning and evolving what we're doing, but it's also to keep me entertained. If I had to build the same thing 12 times, I wouldn't do it. I'd give up halfway through because I'd be bored. I don't want to do something else. So this allows me to pick and choose and keep me enthusiastic about it, because there's nothing worse than any job or any business if you're not enthusiastic about it. Again, back to my dad, every day he went to work with a huge smile on the face, and it doesn't matter whether he was working a 14, 15-hour day and coming home knackered, he still had a smile on his face because he loved what he was doing. And that's all you can really wish for. We can't decide. It'd be nice to win the lottery and not have to work, but that's not realistic, is it? So the best thing you can come with is have a good day and be happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like obviously the Secret Garden Glamping is taking up a lot of your time. So do you still have other business interests? Are you involved with anything else? Or is it really a case that now the company's growing, that's obviously where your focus is going to be moving forward?
Yeah, it is ultimately. This is 100% my focus. But then, again, because of Dragon's Den now, we've got lots of different directions we can take the business. Because it's not just the business, it's the brand and what we can go into. So it's what we do here is specifically glamping, but we're looking at boutique hotels, more traditional holiday accommodation, different things abroad, different branding options with merchandise and different directions. It's all really to do with staycations, whether that be in the UK for the UK economy or in Europe or in the US. There's lots of different options for it, and that's really exciting because again, it's markets that I haven't done before, so it's all new. So it's like starting again, which is great fun. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So we're approaching the end, but a little trivia before we do it in the episodes, where we talk about some of your most favourite things in a quick fire round. So first question is, what's your favourite food?
Favourite food? If I had one on a desert island pizza, a wood-fired pizza, I had one yesterday. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, nice. Favourite band or artist from the world of music?
Oh, do you know what? I don't really listen to music that much anymore, but if I put on any album, daft as it sounds, Greatest Showman album.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, I'll put that on and I'll feel like $1 million and I'll be bouncing around the woodland like a crazy man. So Greatest Showman album, I'll go with that.
Yeah. I'm assuming you probably don't get much time to watch TV or film, but what is your favourite TV programme or film?
Favourite TV programme? At the minute, it's Suits. I'm going back. I watched the whole series and I'm working my way back through it because it's been sort of 3-4 years since I've watched it. So that's on my list at the minute.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite film as well?
Favourite film, going back to my youth, would be Short Circuit.
Okay.
Short Circuit.
No, I've not seen it. No.
Oh, it was one that and the Goonies. Me and my brother used to watch.
Yeah, I've seen the Goonies.
Yeah.
Favorite place in the world?
Favorite place in the world, America. So specifically Florida. Back to my dad. My dad used to work for Disney, so we'd spend a lot of time in the US while my dad was working, and we were there. So I have really, really fond memories of Florida and the US.
Yeah. Favorite famous person? You can't say Deborah Meaden.
Oh, I've got to pick Deborah. Right, if I can't pick Deborah, it's going to be Sarah. She's my new best friend. I absolutely love her to death. Again, because I made her cry on Dragon's Den.
Yeah. Favorite memory from your life?
Favorite memory from my life? It's got to be, again, back to the reason why I like the US. I remember being with my dad one day, and I must have only been about 4 years old, and he took us through the back entrance at Disney, and it was really early because I remember it being bright, and me and my brother were half asleep, and we literally pushed a fire escape door open, and we were on Main Street in Disney with no nobody else in the whole park. And my dad took us in to walk down and through the park with nobody else there before he started work. It was phenomenal. I still remember it was like that big bright glow coming out into it. It was amazing.
Yeah. Derry, look, it's been a real pleasure to hear about your journey. You bond with your dad and the success of obviously your company now. So, you come across as such a likable individual, which I think goes a long way, and I'm sure you'll be an inspiration to many people out there, including our listeners. So thank you very much for your time today. Perhaps you'd just like to finish by telling everyone where our listeners can find the Secret Garden Glamping online, how to book, and where they can find your units in the UK.
Yeah, so if you find us on our website, so the secretgardenglamping.uk, any of the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, we're at the Secret Garden Glamping. If you want to get hold of me, my phone number is still on the website. I don't take it off there. So if anybody wants to ring up and have a chat and just see if there's anything we can do together, by all means, my email address is on there as well. And we're based in Skelmersdale. The booking system is through the website, although we are fully booked until mid-2025 at the moment, and then weekends of 2026. But we will have more coming. So give us a follow on social media and you'll find all about what we're doing in the next month or two.
Yeah, thank you, Derry. So join us next time for a brand new guest as we continue with more life lessons from the world of business.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!